Yo, welcome to the Elite Table Talk, where we unpack health professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs, and just everyday people, and looking at their lifestyle, their mindset, their routines, and we see what they have done to help them move forward and really just get more time back in the day. You know, most people say there's 24 hours in the day, but there's really 16 because we sleep for 8. But how do we get the most out of those 16? So grab a pen, get some paper, let's make some notes. Let's see what we can get from this episode today. Let's go. All right, we are here in the Elite Table Talk podcast. We're here talking with Ollie. We're looking to unpack the 16 fundamentals or the formula he has in place, from literally getting someone to balance on their toes to then getting them to working through full range of motion in their ankles and to running pain-free. Fun fact, did you know that 95% of the population after the age of 30 can't really run, or they struggle to, or it causes them pain, and only 5% of the population after the age of 30 can. Isn't it fun being part of a statistic where we're part of the 5% over here and the 95% over here? For me, there's always that niggling feeling something's not right, and that's probably something that you're going to get out of today's episode with Ollie. So Ollie, thanks for telling us a little more about your services and what you do. But let's start with the first question: is what is knee pain?
Knee pain is,
define it?
Anything that limits you because of a sensation in your knee. So a lot of people have knees that don't let them do as much as they would like to do. And that might mean not doing something at all, or it might mean doing something to an extent you're not happy with. Just signed up a volleyball player before this call. He's actually sort of in between, where he can play, but in heaps of pain. And he can't train as hard as he wants to. So that's knee pain. Whereas someone else, I've had people that have had 1, 2, 3 knee surgeries. They can hardly bend it anymore, and they wobble when they walk, and that's a different level of knee pain. But knee pain is a knee restriction that holds you back from doing what you'd like to do.
Is that due to diet at all? Like in my diet, so for example, is there a certain food that I should avoid eating?
In terms of the surgery ones, or just knee pain in general?
Like you hear, for example, calcium builds stronger bones, so you should drink some milk. Maybe I'm plant-based, I don't drink milk at all. Could that be something that affects knee health, or that could lead to my knee pain, or is it something else?
I'll say yes on the diet. Plant-based can be personal choices, and then it's like, okay, if you've set restrictions, then you have to do the best you can within those restrictions. But diet in general, inflammatory foods, anything processed, I eat very clean in particular. I don't tell people to eat as I do, because that's a step that you have to build towards. Now, food makes the whole journey way easier, but I feel like it's a tangent journey that should be done in parallel. It's not the same. And someone with a terrible diet can still get massive improvements in their knee, but if they had the overall health, they would be much better off.
Okay.
Yeah. Any processed food, inflammatory food, and a lack of protein as well would contribute massively to knee pain.
Okay. So diet can play a factor, but as you're saying, it's not the be-all and end-all. So is surgery the answer?
No, lots of people are told that that's the only option, but that's because when there is a plan B, you never fully commit to plan A. People have the plan B of surgery, so they don't give all the time and all the effort to plan A that they would if plan B wasn't there. I didn't realize, and I didn't have surgery as an option, so I had to make plan A work. Plan A is a non-surgical intervention, and once you say, okay, well, I'm 16 and I don't want to be the old man for the rest of my life. I thought I had 70 years of pain ahead of me. That simply wasn't okay. And when you choose to not accept limitations, you will find the solution. And the solution is not in the surgeries. Firstly, the majority of people that do have the surgery feel worse after. And secondly, most of them get multiple surgeries.
Sometimes some of the surgeries, they just go and clean it up and that's it. They don't actually change anything.
It's like if your car runs out of fuel and the empty gas light is coming on and you tape over the gas light so that you can't see it, rather than fixing the problem, which is an empty gas tank. Surgery masks it, but it doesn't correct the reason why that pain was and damage was there in the first place.
That's great.
Yeah, just block it from my eyes.
Because we also have a roll of tape on the shelf, so we just
strap it up.
Okay, so diet can play a role, surgery can play a role, but really, because you didn't have those at your disposal, you had to go all in on the training, the skill, the strength. And that's what's led you to a 3-step formula that's really had the biggest impact on the people you've worked with.
So everyone has tried a lot of different stuff. Like most people that have knee pain have
tried.
They've tried, they've attempted, they haven't fully committed to it. But a lot of my journey was attempting stuff that didn't fully turn out. Most common thing you hear about knee pain is, sometimes it gets better, but then it comes back. Some days it's worse, other days it's not. And I couldn't settle for that because I had to perform. Certain days as an athlete, you need to be on. Certain training sessions, you need to be on. You don't have the option of, well, I hope my knees are all good this morning. And life as well, let's say it was school ball or school events, I don't want to be in pain. And so I had to know that I wasn't going to be in pain, not hope that I wasn't going to be in pain. And that led me to heal, lengthen, strengthen. Because if you've ever gotten halfway through rehab or you've got feeling better and then you went back to feeling worse, it was because some ratio of one of those three wasn't adequate for your demands. So a lot of people will do the strength stuff, but not the healing stuff. They'll have done the healing stuff, but they haven't built the strength back. So any knee issue can be solved by the right combination and ratio of healing, lengthening, and strengthening movement.
Could you go into a little more detail on that? Because those who are interested, Ole ran an event in Sydney, and there's more to come around Australia. It's really exciting, so keep your eyes peeled. Follow him, Ole Hill, on Instagram to find out when his next workshop is. Though you broke it down in the sense of you're doing tearing sensation, there's shortening, lengthening. Can you elaborate more on that 3 steps?
So this is a Poliquin and Keegan Smith philosophy that isn't talked about anywhere near as much as it should be. And this is going from Nokia training to iPhone training. It's just the next level understanding of how our body actually works. So when we have contractions in our muscles, there's always certain parts of the movement that are hardest and other parts that are easiest. If we make the hardest part of the movement while our muscle is shortening, that has a totally different effect than if the hardest part of the movement is while our muscle is lengthening. Lengthening movements are remodeling ones, short, tight ones are healing ones. So what's fascinating about it is using that understanding of muscle contraction, you have different tools within the same movement. So for the quads, if I do an exercise where the hardest portion is when my muscle is at its shortest, that is going to speed up healing. If I do a quad movement where the hardest portion is where my quad is at length, that might not necessarily be good for healing, but it is brilliant for lengthening and strengthening my quads, which I do need to a certain extent as a volleyball player, as someone trying to live my life, as an MMA athlete.
Yeah. In the context, so let's say I've got, like, how some people, when they step downstairs, they get that front of knee pain. Mm-hmm. And so I've come to you and we're using this model because I'm not quite sure, I don't quite get lengthen, strengthen. Does that mean, I'm not, because people are like, don't let the knees go over toes because you're going to, that's end range and that's bad sort of thing. But you're saying it's not. How would that look though if we would come to see you? Like, are we doing step ups and then we're doing Bulgarian split squats? Because that seems to be a real popular thing on social media at the moment. Like, everyone loves it and hates it. Can you go deeper on that for us?
Not letting your knees go over your toes is bullshit. And it's come from a fear of that puts more pressure on your knees. And it does put more pressure on your knees. But doing a bicep curl puts more pressure on your bicep, which makes it stronger. So knees over toes increases the pressure on your knees, but you need to do that in order for the knees to get stronger. Then
which is great, we're sitting both of our knees over.
Both crossed with the knees. And if we didn't train that capacity, then we couldn't handle it. Most people have a slight knee injury, they get told not to let their knees go over their toes while they're rehabbing it, which actually detrains their knee even more, makes it even more sensitive. So when they come back post-rehab, they get injured even sooner.
Yeah. So for the example is I get pain though stepping up. So what are you going to be recommending for me? Because you said we heal at first, then we work on the lengthen and then the strengthen element. So we're not, probably not going to be doing Bulgarian split squats because that's, steps only that high, versus the Bulgarian would be putting that knee through too much range that it can control. Does that make sense? Like how are you going to help someone who struggles stepping up so we can understand that a bit more?
If someone struggles with knee pain while going up or down stairs, you can solve that with 3 steps. Firstly, we have to heal the trauma that they already have within their kneecap.
Yeah.
Walking downstairs shouldn't be painful. If it is, it tells us there's something wrong within your knee. Healing movements like the Patrick step up, Romanian rhythm squat, or backwards walking will get enough blood flow into that knee, which brings in nutrients and oxygen to heal up the trauma that's already within there. Now that's healing the current trauma. In order to prevent future trauma, we move into lengthening because, like I said, walking downstairs should not be painful. If it is, it's quite likely there's muscle or tendon tension beyond what is natural for the body. And when we have excess tension, the position of our knee is going to be wrong. When we're in the wrong alignment, movements that should be pain-free become painful. Thirdly, strength. If the supporting muscles of our knee aren't strong enough, then they aren't going to be able to handle walking down the stairs, and there can be some collapse, grinding, or wear and tear that shouldn't be there. Heal, lengthen, strengthen, and you'll have the capacity to walk downstairs.
Okay. So for example, let's just say the knee goes at 45 degrees going on a step. Would you be, for heel, we're going to only do 20 degrees of that knee movement?
Yeah, interesting question. So the healing stuff is always short range. Now it's not relative to our demands because healing is short range of motion regardless of if we're trying to heal for going downstairs or if we're trying to heal for an MMA athlete who might have had his knee in a knee bar and got it locked up, hyperextended. It's still the same regardless, but a lot of strength exercises, if they are large range of motion, then yes, you cannot consider that a healing movement because it is overly taxing. So short range of motion dominantly targets the muscle rather than the tendon and ligament. Muscle targeting means we get blood flow to the muscle, but the tendons, even while the tendons weren't working. Large range of motion places stress on the muscle and the tendons and ligaments, but it stresses those. So it does get some blood in there, but it was getting blood while damaging them. Short range movements get blood to them without damaging them.
Yeah. Okay. But for us to understand, can you give us like an explanation of like what exercises you're doing? So like, for example, I think I watched you with Francesca and you were doing some step downs or Patrick step ups, but then you had a supersetting with a couch stretch. So is that you're working the heel element and then you had her working on lengthening elements. So putting that muscle through more range, not under load, but her ability to contract, relax and work through it. And then after a few rounds of that, you then went to the Patrick step up, finding, okay, how high can we go? So you got it up to 2 steps, but then when you added weight to it to strengthen it, she felt pain come back, or not pain, she felt a clicking. So you're like, okay, well, let's reduce the height. You did 1 step with a half plate, and then she's like, she had the control and stability. So you had her doing weight now. Is that how you've built it up? Or
so there's 2 elements there, sequencing and capacity. Now in terms of sequencing, healing always comes before lengthening, because like I said in the last podcast, healing is the stuff that makes you feel like you've just taken a painkiller. And it's not an illusion like a painkiller is. This movement kind of painkiller, that pain is gone because you did the healing work that takes it away. So once you've taken that pain away, you do have more ability to push into lengthening work. So healing must come before lengthening, because when you're cold and fresh, the lengthening stuff is like getting some blue tack that's cold, you rip it, it pops. When you pull on warmed up blue tack, it just nicely stretches. Then in terms of capacity, Francesca's capacity for strength was adequate when we bent her knee using a 20 kg plate underneath the foot, so about 3 inches of knee bend, then it was adequate with a bit of load, but not 10 kilos each hand. And that's because her knee strength, the strength element of heel, lengthen, and strengthen, wasn't built up for her to be able to handle that level of strength yet. Close, but not yet. Strength, you never want to push beyond. So she was building strength, but she was building strength in a range and an intensity that caused pain, which actually means she's causing more trauma. So the caveat with strength is that it must be performed in a range that does not cause pain. So you should build strength, but you should build strength while not hurting yourself more.
So heel, blood flow, work some length, and then find the range that we have total control over and build that over time.
Correct.
Okay, and so through that process of your 3-step formula, and as you're saying, it's not, you got to do 3 sets of 10. It's more, as you say, capacity of the individual. So, grandma comes in, she's probably got a capacity to only do 2 sets of 5. And you're like, great, that's all you need for today. But the majority of what you're doing is more heel and lengthen with her, with a little bit of strength. But someone like Francesca, we're doing maybe 3 or 4 sets because you worked at her capacity and you can handle it, yet you need to modify the range to support that capacity work. Correct?
Yeah, different ratios of heel, length, and strengthen for every individual. Yeah. That's why it's funny when people say, oh, I've had this for 5 years, I can't get rid of it. It's like, no, you can feel better in 30 minutes. We can do that right now.
They just haven't worked out what that is.
Exactly. They don't know they haven't been shown what healing movement is. But once you can do that healing movement, you just do enough of it to the point where you can push your limit. For example, when I wasn't fixed yet, what I would do is I would test my strength, and then if I went too far, you just did a bit of healing movement. So it never was really too far. I never went far enough to snap or rip anything, but if I went, ooh, I feel like I've pushed quite a lot today, I've got a bit of a twinge. Okay, 5 minutes of backwards walking. Oh, that didn't solve it? Okay, 2 more minutes. Okay, some Patrick step-ups. Now it's gone. So the healing is so easy to understand because the right amount of it is the amount of it that gets you pain-free. Then the strength is as much as you can do without causing pain.
Cool. You've said ATG split squat, you've said step up, step downs, Patrick steps, walking backwards, sleds, prowlers, a bunch of exercises. Yet you've got a 16-step formula. Like, how do these all kind of cohesively work together? And how did you create these 16 exercises? Like, you've worked with people, so they probably had their own formula. Were you like, there's something missing here, or have you just created your own? Like, how did this all come about?
There's something missing I found personally, and then there was something missing I found working with clients. Personally, I didn't find the roadmap forwards was clear enough. I was doing the knees over toes guy stuff, and I still had to figure out a lot of things myself, which as someone who loves movement is okay. But then I had a client, and he was a friend. I knew that we were going to get him fixed, but he couldn't see it yet. So he chose to not continue working with me. And I went, oh, I haven't made the path forwards clear enough, because I knew he was on the right track, but he wasn't aware of that because he hadn't seen it. I'd already seen it. He hadn't seen it yet. So I went, how do I get this out? So there's 16 areas. I don't like to say movements and I don't like to say muscles, because there's 16 areas we need to focus on. 1, 2, and 3 being the tibialis anterior, then the calves soleus, and number 3 is calves gastrocnemius. So you could call that the calves, you could call that the area, but it's also not a movement as well, because there's different movements depending on the intensity level you're at. It's a calf hold when you start, but it's a heavy, heavy rep of a different exercise when you're finishing. So 16 areas, 28 progression levels, because some people come in, they need to work on the same areas, but that's relative to their sport and their life's demands. My nana's demands for her calves, her quadriceps, and her hamstrings are totally different from my demands, but each of us improving our capacity in those areas leads to increased performance and less pain in our life and sport.
Could you elaborate on so are you talking about your areas instead of most people go gastro, just doing standing calf raise? Your areas are based off that model of the shorten, lengthen model?
No, so areas being there's hamstrings, but there's a 16 is Nordics or building hamstring strength. 15 is hamstring length, which ironically I should have said yes there because it is at times, but what it is it's movement patterns as well as it is muscles. Because the tibialis, we're just looking at a muscle, but in the squat, we're looking at a movement. There's other ones that work the quads, but here we're just working on the movement. So to make it as clear as I can, there's 20...
Just sign up with Ole for 12 weeks, that's all you got to do.
There's 28 progression levels, and there's...
26 weeks.
Yeah.
One progress per week.
Well, a lot of people, it depends where they come in at, because it starts, so there's 8 different categories and 3 levels within each belt, I like to call it. So the first category is walking without pain. Then you have long periods of sitting and standing without pain. So you got walking level 1, 2, and 3. 1 is where they should start. 3 is where they need to get to in order to know that they can do this pain-free. So walking, sitting and standing, going to the gym, running, low-level plyometrics, and by that I mean explosive gym work. Then we have sport. Then we have competitive plyometrics, so an athlete who's training to be explosive. Then we have MMA, and those are our 8 categories, 3 levels within each of those, where you should start and where you should get to. Most of my clients skip the walking program, skip the sitting and standing program, usually start on the running program.
Is that because they're just not they're not in enough pain for you to go, we have to start here, or is it just because the demand and the goals they're looking for?
Most of my clients have capacity beyond those programs already. Some of my clients, like my nana, don't have that capacity.
So if I'm standing and I feel knee pain, or I sit and I've got knee pain, well, where's my starting point with you?
So the starting program is 3 sessions, 2 times per week, and they take 20 to 30 minutes. And it's the same session, so it's 10 exercises. You go through those, you will feel better by the end of it. Those first 2 weeks are entirely designed around healing. Once you've healed, you will feel way better. Now we can start to work on the strength that you need. And there's strength standards. Like I said, 3 levels of strength standards. In order to progress through those, once you've progressed through that, you won't be feeling the pain while sitting or standing, because we've built adequate strength in every area that supports the knee.
So I'd like to wrap it up with, I'm feeling broken, I'm just disheartened, I'm like, want to throw in the towel. But I go, you know what, I'm going to give that Ole Hill guy a go. How do I start?
Walk backwards uphill for 5 minutes right now. You want at least 20 to 30 degree angle. If you can do it on a treadmill, turn the treadmill off, go backwards, no stopping. So it's about those consecutive short little reps, and it really pumps the quads. You can get on the treadmill, 5 minutes later get off, feeling like you have way more capacity. Once you feel for yourself, oh, okay, 5 minutes can take me from an 8 to a 6, 5 minutes took you down by 2. You think that actually learning how to do this seriously isn't going to be insane. I have so much free stuff on my Instagram where people tell me, wow, I'm solved just from watching your content. A couple where they're like, okay, I've done 80% of the healing just by watching your stuff. Can I come do the last 20% with you? And they get it within 1 or 2 weeks. I've had a guy, my friend Max, good friends now, he went from not running at all. He hadn't run for a month, maybe a couple months. And then we did 2 weeks of training together. He ran a half marathon, pain-free, nearly set a PB after having not run at all. Just because once you do the right things, once you feel it, you're ready to go. And it's simple. You just have to feel that first round of healing, then you'll be good.
Nice. And just a bonus tip for those that are interested, he actually has an app that you literally can just click and track your own progress. I really like that because a lot of programs, as we were saying before, it's like you got to do this for 6 weeks before you can get to the next step. Yours is just, I've done it, great, click, back next, which is really clean and easy. Plus it's in pink, so why wouldn't you? Like, it's a loving color.
Head to climbthathill.app/final if you want access to that free account.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning into that episode. Hope you really enjoyed it. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel and also to share so we can help more people. Now with your pen, you've probably written down heaps of things, but the things like myself, like there's blank pages, but pages, got lots of notes. What are the top 3 that you got out of today's episode? If 3 is too much, action on one thing and just see how it goes for you for this week. And make amendments and adjustments so you're constantly improving and refining and moving forward in your health, your training, your life. If you ever get stuck, reach out to us at info@vitruvianhealth.com.au. Always here to help. Till next time, adios amigos.